Okay, so in a world where trillions of dollars are constantly moving, all looking for a home, how does a country actually stand out? How does it win that investment? It's a massive question, right? But today, we're going to look at a surprisingly simple answer. Let's get into it.
So really, how does a nation convince investors around the globe to bet on its future? The official answers are usually buried under this mountain of economic jargon, making it all feel impossibly complex, totally out of reach for most of us.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of language I'm talking about. I mean, it sounds super important, right? But it's not exactly easy to wrap your head around, is it? It kind of makes you feel like you need a PhD just to keep up.
But what if I told you it's actually way simpler than that? Abel Sithole, who's the CEO of South Africa's Public Investment Corporation, has this amazing way of boiling it all down to just 3 refreshingly simple, universal rules. And that's what we're going to unpack.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the main idea, the rules of attraction. Then we'll go through each of the 3 rules one by one. Be attractive, produce value, and always compete. Then we'll see how this applies in the real world, looking at South Africa's playing field, and we'll wrap it up with the final takeaway.
And here's what's so powerful about this framework. Sithole says these aren't just rules for giant economies. Nope, they apply to literally everyone and everything. A person looking for a partner, a company trying to win over customers, or a country competing for capital. It's universal.
And here they are, in all their elegant simplicity. Number 1, make yourself attractive. Number 2, produce something of value. And number 3, never ever stop competing. So let's dig into that first rule.
Rule 1. Be attractive. Now, hold on, this isn't just about surface-level stuff. Sithole uses this brilliant and very human metaphor to explain what this really means for a country. It all begins with the effort you're willing to put in.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It's about making a conscious, deliberate effort. A country can't just exist and expect investment to magically appear. You have to actively work to be appealing. So what does perfume and lipstick actually look like for an economy? Well, this is it. For a country, attractiveness means a stable political climate, clear and predictable policies. It means investors feel absolutely certain that their property rights are secure. And, it just means it's easy to show up and do business. That's the stuff that builds real trust.
Okay, let's move on to rule number 2. Because being attractive gets you noticed, for sure, but it's not going to keep anyone around for the long haul. You have to have substance. You've got to produce something of actual value. As Sithole says, you have to deliver the goods. This is really the heart of it. A country has to offer something the world genuinely wants, whether that's a physical product, a specific service, or maybe even just its brainpower. So what does that look like in practice? Well, for a country like South Africa, it's a pretty diverse mix. We're talking about world-leading mining technology, valuable agricultural products like citrus, the ingenuity of its people, and hey, even cultural exports. Music, art, shows that have a massive global audience. And if you want a perfect example of that ingenuity, just look at this number. Mining almost 5 kilometers below the surface of the Earth. That takes incredible, mind-blowing technology and expertise. That's not just digging a hole. That's a high-tech service, a unique value that very few others on the planet can offer. Now that is a powerful good.
And that brings us to the final rule, which might just be the most important one of all. Always compete. See, attracting investment isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a constant battle for attention and for capital in what is a very crowded world.
Sithole uses another amazing analogy here, marriage. Getting chosen in the first place, that's just the beginning. The real work is making sure you stay the best choice, day in and day out, year after year. And that means you have to understand you are always in competition. And this really gets to the heart of a competitive mindset. The absolute biggest mistake a country can make is thinking the world owes it something. The hard reality is, other countries are also waking up every single morning and putting on their lipstick. The only way to win is to make sure your offer is consistently better than theirs.
So let's bring these rules into the real world for a second. For a place like South Africa, the competitive landscape has shifted dramatically over the past few decades, and that really hammers home the importance of that third rule.
See, there was a time when South Africa was the undisputed gateway to Africa. If you wanted to invest on the continent, that's where you started, period. But that's just not a given anymore. It's not that other nations did anything wrong, they just got better. They've been putting on their own perfume and lipstick, producing their own value, and creating a much tougher, more competitive environment. It just goes to show you, no advantage lasts forever.
So, as we start to pull this all together, what's the one big idea we should take away from this simple yet incredibly powerful framework?
It all boils down to this single, powerful idea of self-reliance. As Sitole put it so bluntly, nobody owes us any favors. We need to look after ourselves. In the global economy, at the end of the day, success depends entirely on a country taking ownership of its own destiny.
So, let's just run through the rules one last time. Be attractive. That means having stable, trustworthy policies. Produce real value, whether that's goods, services, or ideas. And compete relentlessly, because you can bet on it, everybody else is.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Imagine a world where every single nation was actively making itself more attractive, producing unique value, and competing every day to be better. Who do you think would win? And more importantly, what would that world even look like?